Hello everybody and welcome back to the devlogs for That Which Sleeps. It has been a while, but we are here to talk about our biggest change, the map itself. Going from a single sprite-based system to a dynamic hex-based system has been a challenge, but has really upped the quality of the game. We had three major goals going into it. One was to really increase functionality for the game. Another was to increase extensibility, but we also wanted to make sure we retained the cartographic feel we'd captured with the other game. Looking down at a fantasy map and moving your armies and agents around the world and being able to see a lot of action. We wanted to make sure that even on the simplest computer that this is running on, that you can see entire nations at war on the screen. The other thing was to make sure that we didn't overcomplicate the process for modders. We wanted to make sure that they had a nice robust tool set so they could quickly make a world. And let me show you how we've done that. So I'm going to make a world right now really quick. Keep in mind this is all alpha stuff. There's still little bugs. You'll see some shader effects where stuff's going into the water. That's not intentional. That's just the shaders aren't perfected yet. So you'll see we have different terrains coming down. I'm going to build some tundra coming in from the north. Islands very quickly. Add some badland in here. Make a little desert for adventurers to go off and have a good time. I'm not going to add a marsh. In mountains, we can quickly create massive mountain ranges using the mountain range tool. Can also build them specifically by choosing the ones we want, and I'll talk later about what the differences are here in these. There we go, that looks pretty good. There's only one way to get through this area, and that tiny coastal road, which is very dangerous. And we can go through. I'm going to add a marsh way down here. I need a place for my lizard men to hang out. And we want to probably make that cold again. We can change the outline of the map. We have variants for almost everything. There aren't that many right now. It was more just we did it because we wanted to have some variants for our testing going into beta. We can have hundreds of these without impacting performance in the slightest because they're just done pixel perfect. They're tiny. Essentially right now it's just a black line with some shading around the edge. We are going to have an artist go over it at some point to create better variants so you can see coastlines, you can see if it's a beach, you can see rocky shores, stuff like that. Let's make this a little more, there we go, make that a straight. So straights are actually different, and you'll coasts have men information unlike most of the other stuff. Coasts have offsets, so if you place, for instance, a lighthouse on this, it would appear at the edge. It also tags this one as a straight. Straights have great impact, of course, on trading as well as military maneuvers in the sea. Okay, let's move over and add rivers. Rivers actually have logic to it. The issue is rivers are very tactically important. And we need to know what upstream is versus downstream because you can actually cause problems further downstream. Rivers can freeze over and people can walk over them. You can dam them and create a lake. You can create sub-rivers. Sub-rivers, like you see, those are actually different rivers entirely. The main river itself counts as one. The others count as separate rivers. We need to make sure this marsh gets some water. It'll dry up. Again, my lizard men don't like that. Let's add even more water. There we go. This guy's joined in. Look very awkward. You can make lakes. We only have one lake image. It looks terrible. That's the lake right there. Though you can and lead off from that. The rivers have a lot of effects that are handled by shader, so you can make frozen lakes, frozen rivers rather. You can do corrupted rivers and show that progress further down from this point something is polluting the POIs adjacent. Let's add some features in. So features are pretty much everything else. They all have tactical relevance to the game as well as mechanical changes, mechanical differences, but some of them are more relevant than others. Dunes, for instance, do pretty much nothing. They had a very slight danger increase to a POI. Trees are the same trees you saw before. They're really not that nice. They're not what we want to go with in the end, but they will do for now. You see, you can add trees around. They blend in with the same logic as the mountains. So just we add some forests. Add some rough spots. That just adds mostly military modifiers, though also adventurers do get danger increases with hills. So there you go. It's a very simple, quickly made world. You could easily have 3 or 4 nations warring in this area. We definitely scaled the game out a bit from before. We wanted to have even more visible to the player at a glance. And we think this is a great size where you can still make out all the details going on in the world while being able to see as much as possible. I really didn't do much on this little island over here. Let's give them something. Let me actually restart, and then you can see. Alright, it's loading in. It reloads the textures whenever you create new in case you want to modify them on your end. Then you can reload and have the textures back in and see your changes. Alright, so let's look at the screen for a second. See how it says Core Cartographic? That's one of the map packs. A map pack is your collection of textures and images and sprites used on the map. If it's a core one from Core Cartographic or Core Realistic, it is not shipped out with your map. If you have something else in your own pack, so you made your own folder with your own textures, and you added those into the game, into the map, then when you ship your map out and use export, it will keep those with it, so that when you give it to someone, they'll have your map textures, unless you're using the core, in which case it will use their own. So if they modded theirs on their end, it may look different. Alright, so let's take a look at Realistic real quick. Realistic is probably more along the lines of what you'd see in a regular strategy game. See, it's got a lot more color to it. Doesn't necessarily work with the system we're going for, but we wanted to have it in there for testing, as well as, of course, if someone wants the option to build this way, they're more than able to. Alright, so you can mix and match if you'd like. Go back to Core Cartographic. So what happens when I drop down a tile? So when I drop down right there, that hex, that middle hex is land, and every adjacent hex is marked as coastal. Coastal hexes are important because they, you place docks on them, you place certain structures, and they are bulwarks against any of the many devastating terraforming effects that now will haunt this world, thanks to the stretch goals. So what you see there is a bunch of the small coasts. So those coasts, if anything happens, will just destroy the inner area. So any cities that are inside or on the edge would be destroyed. However, if you went to coasts and gave them a different one, those would take a hit and you'd lose that outer section first. And that's where you would build docks, harbors, and other things. Well, you wouldn't be building them, but the heroes and civilizations would be. So it would knock those down, causing some problems, of course, but at least not destroying the city. So we do this also to add variety to the map, so you can make the game look a little different. We want you to be able to create the map that looks the way you'd want it to, especially based on any world you want to recreate. And creating these coasts is incredibly easy, so that if there's something not to your liking and add them in, we're going to ship probably with hundreds. Right now there aren't that many because we're just going towards the beta. Alright, so mountains, we'll go back to mountains for a second. You can use that build range, it just creates adjacency logic. It says what's there, but let's look at the mountain file itself. That's what's important. See, this one says 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. That each one of those marks a hex ending, so if you can see it better here, 4 is the lower left. That means nothing can cross that boundary. And if we have 4 and 6, nothing can cross the 4 and 6 boundary. Oh, I'm on build range. So there you go, 4 and 6. So nothing could go from this center to 6, nothing over the center to 4, or vice versa. And that's pretty important. Now 0 means the middle is blocked. It means you can't put a city in the middle, and nothing can go through it, including rivers. So in that 4 and 6, let's actually put another one down so you can see. This is 3, 4, 5. Normally you can put a city in the middle, which you could do here. This is not 0 is not blocked. You also put it at the 1, the 2, and the 6. You could have a city or settlement or other POI. You can't put it on top of the mountain, though, with the exception of course, mountain POIs. So if I were to now go to river, so you saw it has marked some as legal and some as illegal. You have some luxury, like I said, you couldn't go through a mountain. You can when you start from there. So if I go down here, you'll see it just starts underneath it. Doesn't always reach the end because of some shader problems. Not really a big concern, something we'll get to in time. You see the same thing over here. Here comes some rivers. So important to that is rivers are maintained inside the file. You can see that river is there. It maintains start and end, like I mentioned before. That is very important. You can name them. If you just leave it as river, it will never be reflected. It'll just stay as a river. You can name it in different languages. You can do the same thing for other things as well. You don't have to do it just for rivers. You can name this mountain range. The devlog mountains. Mark it as a mountain. If you mark it as a landmass, it will save everything. So this ignores any kind of logic of placement. It just saves it as a giant landmass. It's in case you made a really cool island like this and said, I want to give you this island and have let the other people play with it. So I would mark them all, save it as a landmass, and I'd export that. I could send that to someone else and they could then import that island and have it in their map as well. So I'm going to mark this as a mountain. I'm going to save it. You see now it's a mountain. If I click, see it again. Name it in Dwarvish, the devlog mountains of dwarves. Save that. Just simple stuff. You can do it for the entire landmass, just mountains, name mountain ranges, rivers, just to name rivers, and by default rivers are created. As I said, they have to be tracked. And features, so this could be for forest, hills, and stuff like that. And there you have the map builder. You can export and import, of course, which is important for sharing files. And we are done. I look forward to seeing what people create with it, and I look forward to our next devlog, which should be coming much, much, much sooner than this one was delayed. All right, till next time.